Today is an exciting day for us here at Oliver Smith Jeweler. We are so pleased to announce that Omega is joining the Oliver Smith family.
So excited. I've been a watch guy my whole life. My first good watch, and not everybody knows this, my first good watch was an Omega Seamaster Bond.
I did not
300.
know that.
Yeah, actually, the watch is long gone. The bezel's my personal keyring, and the original dial for my original watch is my ball marker when I play golf.
What made you choose that watch?
For me, it's a family thing. My great-grandfather was a clockmaker in Scotland. Came over in the early 1900s, brought one grandmother's clock with him. So the clock and watching has been in my family kind of the whole time. So
in your blood.
And for me, this is going to sound really weird. Omega wasn't Rolex.
Right.
I held it in just as high in esteem, and I still do. But in certain situations, Rolex can kind of overstep itself.
Sure.
They can kind of be like, who's this guy think he is? Maybe a little flashy for certain situations where I've never found an Omega, even a gold one, to kind of overstep itself or be out of place in any situation.
Kind of, you know what you're doing in the watch world too. I mean, there's so much history to the brand, so much where they lead as far as their movements and what's happening in the materials. So a little bit of kind of you're in on the watch world.
Yeah, and I do think it's one of those watches that says nothing but good things about the wearer. No one, anytime you walk in the room, you're like, oh, nice watch.
Right.
You know, just because it implicitly is. Even if you know nothing, you look at something like this and you go, oh, that's a good watch. And then you stack on the history of the brand. Almost in a Gump kind of fashion, they've been a part of some of the things that have made America great.
Right, and that's why we picked the Speedmaster today, the infamous Moon watch, because this is kind of the hallmark of the brand. I think one of the most important sports watches with the best story. So we're going to give you a little bit of that story today.
So I'm literally the first generation that was born after we had gone to the moon.
Got it.
And it's funny, it happened in 69, I was born in 70. And so I have like a different perspective from a person just a few years older than I do, because we think about it as, you know, America went to the moon, the world went to the moon.
Right.
It is an international, it was a huge thing everywhere in the world, and it fundamentally changed the way we saw ourselves. At least for a little while, it wasn't like us versus us, country versus country.
Yeah.
The world really united around that one thing, and this watch did it. It was really, really cool.
I'm going to tell a little bit of the story of how this watch, the Omega Speedmaster, got to space. So 1965, NASA's getting ready to go to the moon, and they asked for some watch brands to submit themselves. And 4 brands submitted, including Omega and Speedmaster. And the Speedmaster was the only watch that passed all 10 tests. Everyone crashed out and burned at some point, but really rigorous tests. And Omega was actually the watch that the astronauts chose. Right? And that's a really big deal.
I think that has a lot to do with functionality and aesthetics. And it is funny, retrospectively, people have given the Omega Speedmaster Moonwatch a lot of credit for doing things just right for the space program. And it's kind of funny. We're going to do it real quick. It is a manual wind watch.
Right.
So people will credit that with being, oh, well, an automatic wouldn't work in space. For those of you who don't know, at that point, there was no such thing as an automatic chronograph. They were just in the early stages of inventing it. It wasn't even an option, but they are right. But people say like, oh, they did that. And it's like, no, that's just the way it was. So this one happens to be what we call a sapphire sandwich. It has a sapphire crystal front and back, so an exhibition back. I would get on my high horse in this one a lot. We're like, well, let's know the moon watch. It is a fantastic watch. I've actually had a chance to wear one a couple times, and this is maybe the best wearing moon watch out there.
Okay.
But that being said, the Hesalite crystal.
Right.
People credit Omega with doing a Hesalite crystal because, all right, if you think about it this way, you're in a capsule, you're in space, you're in zero gravity. If you had a sapphire crystal and something bad happened, sapphire shatters into small dust-like shards. Okay. That gets into the machinery, that mucks up everything. That's a really, really bad day. Hesalite, if something bad happens, breaks off in big chunks. Okay. So you can just go boom, 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 boom. Again, at that point in the game, sapphire crystals were incredibly rare, if at all. So it was just a perfect storm of the right watch for all the things, but because it just was.
It was meant to be.
It wasn't engineered that way. And I like a couple of Omega stories like that, because it wasn't like Omega was like, oh, please, you know, they just submitted a watch, you know, and then it was NASA, it was the astronauts, it was those guys who chose it, and then it became the watch to go to the moon.
It really was meant to be. So 1969, NASA sees the first journey to the moon where they're actually walking on the moon, and you can see the Speedmaster on their wrist with a big Velcro strap on the outside of their suits. But such an iconic moment, not over to your point, to the U.S., for the world, and of course for Omega. So then move forward to 1970, Apollo 13. Again, a really famous mission, kind of famous for not going right. But this is where the Speedmaster really got to shine.
So if you had the pleasure of watching the movie Apollo 13, Omega should have had a credit in that movie. And it wasn't one of those things like you see when people have bought that little space. You know, you have that like that wrist.
Sure. Holding the drink.
It was an integral part of the story. So again, they got to kind of slide into the story without it being a cash grab or anything like that. But for those of you who don't know, it was a horror fraught journey that they were on, and at one point you lose all your nav, and they're literally putting a star into one of the windows, navigating by that and timing the firing of the engines with the Omega Speedmaster. And then different watches throughout Omega's history have kind of done a nod to that burn with different Snoopy watches and stuff like that. But again, it's just the right watch at the right time.
So that is what won Omega the Snoopy Award, which was a very prestigious NASA award, and essentially what NASA and the astronauts gave to people or systems or products that helped them do their job. And that's kind of why the Snoopy Speedmaster from Omega has become one of the most sought after watches, extremely hard to get.
Absolutely.
Really celebrates an amazing time for the brand. And then 1972 was the last mission to space.
Yep. And it's so 70, 71, 72. And I'm just going to touch on it because I'm wearing one. They did a commemorative piece to Apollo 11. Okay. It was a limited edition of 1,014 pieces. Number 1 and number 2 went to President Nixon and Vice President Agnew, who didn't accept. So they're in the Omega Museum because they were all engraved. They were all engraved.
Cool.
The rest of the first 33 went to the crew, the astronauts. We just had John Glenn's engraved one go for like 2.2 million.
I was going to say, they show up in auction as well.
And then towards the end of the run, numbers a little bit disputed, 17, 20, something like that, but went to Apollo's 14 and 17's astronauts.
Wow.
So there's only a small slice in the middle that went out to the public. This one was purchased in Fiji in 71 and imported in the U.S. in 72. So a little piece of history here, kind of a cool watch.
And if you're excited about Omega and you love luxury watches, Omega is going to be one of 15 brands at Watch Week Aspen this year, August 7th through the 10th. Every brand is going to have their own event. There's big collector gatherings. There's speaker series. It's a lot of fun. So please join us in Aspen. It is free to attend. You just have to get yourself there. To learn more, head to watchweekaspen.com where you can register and see all the events. So the Speedmaster today is a 42 millimeter. The one we're looking at is stainless steel. The chronograph functions on the right-hand side. That makes this case asymmetrical. As we call it, because it's heavier on the right. This is the Sapphire version.
Yep.
So Sapphire crystal on the front and on the back.
As purists, you want a moon watch to be an exact replica of the watch that went to the moon. And no Sapphire, but I bought this one out of a lot in New York a number of years ago, and I wore it home.
Mm-hmm.
What a great wearing watch! For those of you who haven't had any experience with a moon watch, the Hesalite is a fantastic material, pluses and minuses. Hesalite's a little softer than Sapphire, and it scratches a lot easier.
Right.
Like your shirt will haze the crystal.
Right.
The nice thing is you can polish a Hesalite.
Yes.
Where if you actually scratch a Sapphire crystal, I'm more worried about you. Something really bad just happened, and we'll worry about the watch later. But it's usually replacement. You can't really do anything for it. So pluses and minuses there. And it's funny, we just did a little, like a YouTube short thing where it said this or that. Mm-hmm. I didn't realize what a huge fan I was of the Speedmaster.
Speedmaster Hesalite versus the Rolex Submariner No Date.
I'm going to stick with the Omega. Am I checking through the Omega in this one? Am I learning something about myself? This is cool. You had to go big for me to get this off my wrist, so I like that. So because we are now officially carrying Omega, I could not be more happy. I think I've chosen the one I'm going to get. So they did kind of a special edition of the Moon Watch. Mm-hmm. I guess it's not a Moon Watch. It's before a Moon Watch, a pre-Moon Watch. It's called the first Omega in space. It's a little special edition they did. An inky blue dial. It's the older hands. It's the model before this.
Right.
Little smaller, 39 and change. It's got me kind of smitten. So hang on, see what I end up getting.
I think it's fair to say there's so much more to say about Omega. We're going to talk about the movements more down the line. We're going to do unboxings where we're going to leave it with that today.
Yep.
We'll flip it to you guys. What do you want to see from Omega? What do you want us to talk about and dive into? If you have a chance, come visit our Omega boutique in Aspen and come say hi this summer. We have set up shop and we are so excited to be there.
So we're kicking off. The official launch is towards the end of the month for the Food and Wine Festival. So if you're fortunate enough to be up there, please stop in and say hi. And if not, put it on your calendar. Watch Week Aspen right around the corner. We'd love to meet you.